The son of a blacksmith, in a dusty village nestled at the foot of the Vulture Peak, lived a boy named Sikh, the son of a blacksmith. His father, Danaka, was strong and stoic, shaping metal with fire and force. But Sikh was not like him. He was quiet, thoughtful, and often lost in the sky, wondering why people shouted when they could whisper, why they fought when they could forgive. The villagers mocked him. "You dream too much," they said. "The world is not kind to dreamers." His only solace was the old temple bell in the forest. It had not rung for years. "It will ring again," Sikh would whisper to it when the world becomes silent enough to listen. One day, after a village quarrel turned violent, Sikh's father was injured. As Danaka lay unconscious, Sikh sat beside him and said, "I do not want to learn to fight metal. I want to learn to shape the soul." A monk from a nearby monastery overheard him and spoke gently. "Then come. The Buddha's path is not for the weak, but for the willing." Sikh left that night. 2. Jetavana, the garden of refuge. Sikh arrived at Jetavana, the monastery where the Buddha stayed often. He was received by Bhante Sumita, a senior monk, with kind eyes and deep laugh lines. "What do you seek, young one?" he asked. "Truth, peace, meaning." "Then begin with silence," Sumita smiled. Days turned into weeks. Sikh learned to sweep floors without pride, eat without greed, and sit without staring. Meditation was hard. Thoughts swirled like smoke, but he remained. Then came a day when the Buddha himself entered Jetavana. He did not shine with magic, but with stillness. Even the birds seemed to hush. Sikh bowed low. "Master," he said, "I have run from a world of noise. I want to find silence." The Buddha simply replied, "True silence is not around you, but within you. Would you like to learn how to hear it?" And thus began his true training. 3. The Four Truths. One morning, the Buddha gathered the novices and said, "There are 4 noble truths. Life is suffering, dukkha. Suffering has a cause. Craving, tanha. Suffering can end. The path to its end is the Noble Eightfold Path." Sikh was puzzled. "But why must life be suffering?" The Buddha replied, "Not all life is pain, but all attachment is. You suffer not because a flower wilts, but because you wanted it to last forever." Sikh sat with this for days. He remembered his mother, who died when he was 10, how he cried for years, clung to her memory, blamed the world. Now he saw. His suffering was not her death, it was his refusal to accept her impermanence. With these, he took his first step on the path. 4. Right view, right intention. Bhante Sumita guided Sikh through the first 2 steps of the Eightfold Path. Right view, he said, is seeing things as they are, not as you wish them to be. Like looking into a clear pond, not muddy water. Sikh began to observe more. The anger in others was pain in disguise. The greed was fear of loss. The pride was a mask for insecurity. Right intention, Sumita continued, means letting go of ill will, cruelty, and desire. Sikh struggled here. He still longed to prove himself to the villagers who mocked him, but he learned to release it, not out of weakness, but out of freedom. It is better, he thought, to be free than to be right. 5. Right speech, right action, right livelihood. Sikh soon learned the next 3 steps, all about living ethically. Right speech, said a senior nun, is more than avoiding lies. It is speaking only what is kind, true, and useful. Sikh observed a fellow novice mocking another. He stepped in, not with scolding, but by saying, "If we can't lift each other, what is the use of words?" It surprised them. They stopped. Right action, the Buddha taught one evening, is to act in ways that harm none, not out of fear of punishment, but out of compassion. Sikh began helping the kitchen staff, nursing sick birds, sharing his blanket with the cold. He even wrote a letter to his father, not of shame, but love. Right livelihood, the Buddha explained, means earning in a way that causes no harm. Sikh pledged never to trade in weapons, lies, or slavery of any kind. "Let my living be light to others," he prayed. 6. Right effort, right mindfulness. As the months passed, Sikh grew in discipline. Right effort, said Sumita, is the effort to cultivate good and abandon bad. not forced, but consistent. Sikh compared it to tending a garden. Every day I must pull out weeds, anger, greed, fear, and water seeds of kindness. The real test came when a group of villagers visited. Among them were those who once mocked him. They whispered, "Is that the blacksmith's son?" Sikh bowed with humility. He did not react. Later, he offered them water. Sumita smiled. This is right mindfulness. To be aware, but not attached. To see clearly, yet remain calm. Sikh felt a small flame light within. 7. Right concentration. The door within. The final step was the hardest. Right concentration. Deep meditation. Sikh struggled with wandering thoughts, old memories, worries about his father. But he remembered the Buddha's words, "The mind is like a monkey, don't fight it." Gently hold out a banana of breath and stillness. He laughed at the metaphor, but it helped. One full moon night, under a Bodhi tree, Sikh sat for hours. His breath slowed, thoughts quieted. He felt his body dissolve into lightness. He saw his childhood, his pain, his ego rise and fall like waves. In that moment, Sikh did not vanish. He woke up, not with fireworks, but with stillness, like a bell that rings without sound. 8. The return home years passed. Sikh became a teacher, humble and serene. One day he returned to his village. People barely recognized him. His father, now old, cried upon seeing him. "I thought you left us for good." "I left to find what I could bring back," Sikh said. He began to teach under the old banyan tree. Children listened, adults wept. One day, a student asked, "How did you become wise?" Sikh pointed to the forest. "I sat with silence until it spoke. I looked within until I found what I was looking for outside. I followed the path and it brought me back to myself." The villagers began restoring the forest temple. The bell that had long stood silent was cleaned and hung again, but no one dared to ring it until one morning, Sikh walked into the temple, placed his hand on the bell, and gently struck it. It rang, not because the world had become silent, but because he had. 9. Legacy of the path. Before his passing, Sikh wrote, "The Buddha did not give me magic. He gave me a mirror. In it, I saw my pain, my pride, my purpose. He gave me tools, not shortcuts. And in walking the path, I discovered the one I had always been waiting for, myself." His teaching spread far, not as doctrine, but as a living reminder that anyone, even a blacksmith's son, could reach liberation. All it takes is right view, right effort, and right heart. 10. The lesson. Wisdom that endures. This story of Sikh is not just about monks and mountains. It is about you, the reader. You who have suffered. You who seek peace. You who wonder if you are enough. The Buddha's wisdom is not trapped in time. It is as alive as breath, as near as your next mindful step. So, the next time life feels noisy, chaotic, or cruel, remember the bell that rang in silence. And begin not by looking outward, but inward. As the Buddha said, "No one saves us but ourselves. No one can and no one may. We ourselves must walk the path